Hi, and welcome to Habit 3.1 Feedback. I'm Chris Dupont, a practice development pharmacist from Winnipeg, Canada, and I have the privilege of introducing this month's group discussion. I'd like to start with a reflection. Building off of Lindsay's intro video was this idea that many of us, if not all of us, we weren't formally taught how to provide effective feedback during our training. Rather, it's something that we just sort of figured out how to do over time. Still figuring out. And that brings up an important distinction. And that is that being an effective preceptor and being an effective clinician, well, those are two different skill sets. And one doesn't necessitate the other, right? We only get better at precepting by doing it. And the same logic follows for feedback, right? We learn through practice, through self-reflection. Interestingly, through getting feedback from others, right? From our peers and colleagues, from our students and residents, particularly in helping us identify our blind spots over time. I'd like to ask a simple question. What is feedback? Now, the clearest explanation I've come across is that by Doug Stone and Sheila Heen in their book, Thanks for the Feedback. Now, you don't have to read this book to complete this module, but if you haven't checked it out, I'd highly recommend it. Add it to your reading list or your audiobook wish list. It's fantastic. Adam Grant, a well-known organizational psychologist, gave the following endorsement. He said, and I quote, "Thanks for the Feedback is a potentially life-changing look at one of the toughest but most important parts of life, receiving feedback. It's a roadmap to less defensiveness, more self-awareness, greater learning, and richer relationships," end quote. I think this book could inspire us to be a better friend, a better colleague, a better preceptor for sure, right? But also a better partner, spouse, and human being. And that's because we give feedback every day, all day, with people from all walks of life. So yes, in this context, for this course, we'll be talking about feedback as it relates to the preceptor, all of you, and your learners. But what Doug and Sheila are getting at is that feedback is so much more than a teaching tool, right? It's relational, emotional, and deeply human. How we give it, receive it, and talk about it shapes how safe learners feel engaging in the learning process. And on that note, let's get into the lesson plan.
So one of your learning objectives this month is to think about how you would explain what feedback is to a learner. This is deceptively simple, but important. It connects directly to the story you tell yourself about your role as a preceptor and what you see as your responsibility. To support this, I've included a brief summary adapted from Thanks for the Feedback, and as you read it, consider, do you agree with this framing? Do you intentionally include coaching, evaluation, and appreciation in your precepting? Consider taking the time to have a discussion with your learner about their experience with feedback, their sensitivity profile to receiving it, and triggers that block feedback as a way to build clear expectations on why it is essential for their growth and development. Your second learning objective is to reflect on what makes feedback effective or difficult in practice. And as you explore the different feedback models mentioned in the Arsini paper and the videos this week, you'll notice a recurring theme. Feedback works best when it's a dialogue and not a monologue. I'd like you to hold one additional idea alongside all of this. If you find that much of your early feedback focuses on what the learner missed, that may be a signal not about the learner, but about how the task was set up. So I recently gave a talk on supporting students' clinical decision-making based on my experiences as an experiential education facilitator in Winnipeg, Canada. If you have time, I'd welcome your thoughts on my argument that preceptors should take preceptor modeling more seriously, using it intentionally on a continuum based on task complexity and the learner's initial presentation. So before asking a learner to go work up a patient or complete a task, consider taking a few minutes to discuss what information they will gather, why that information matters, and how it will inform clinical reasoning before the task begins. When we do this, feedback shifts away from listing omissions and more towards discussing reasoning, judgment, and decision making. As you participate in the discussion board, I encourage you to go beyond sharing what you agree with alone. Please also consider what challenged you. What did you disagree with? And what would you like further clarification or discussion around? Now, these asynchronous learning sessions, they make real dialogue harder. And so we have to write in ways that invite conversation and not just agreement. I'm looking forward to reading your reflections. Talk soon.